Most quality failures managers deal with don't reach the news headlines, but in this presentation, of those that did, I cite several that could have been avoided by managing the quality of outputs more effectively. In 1984, 4,000 people were killed in Bhopal, the capital of the Indian state of Madhya Pradesh, caused by methyl isocyanate, a poisonous gas leaking from Union Carbide's chemical plant due to a faulty valve aggravated by poor maintenance and compounded by the malfunction of emergency systems. 14,000 have died from related illnesses since, and Union Carbide paid $470 million in an out-of-court settlement in 1989. In 1988, 167 people were killed in the Piper Alpha disaster in the North Sea. A backup propane condensate pump had been removed for maintenance, but when the primary condensate pump failed, the control staff, who didn't know the backup pump had been removed, switched over to backup. The gas was routed through the hole where the pump had been and ignited. Operators are continuing to risk the lives of their employees, despite the lessons learned by Lord Cullen's inquiry. In 1989, 34,000 animals were killed in the Exxon Valdez disaster. 11 million gallons of crude oil spilt into Prince William Sound, Alaska, and ExxonMobil were ordered to pay $6.75 billion in damages. This was caused by incompetent leadership as the captain handed over control to his third in command. In 2000, 113 people were killed when an Air France Concorde crashed on takeoff. The crash was caused by a burst tire on Concorde's landing gear, which projected a 4-kilogram chunk of rubber through the aircraft's fuel tank. The tire was burst when a 40-centimeter piece of metal fell from a Continental Airlines DC-10 that had taken off from the same runway 5 minutes previously. Continental Airlines was fined €200,000 in order to pay Air France €1 million and 70% of any compensation claims. £70 million was spent in modifications, but just before services resumed, the September the 11th attack in New York caused a fall in passenger numbers, and Concorde was retired after 27 years of service. In 2001, 7 million animals were killed in the foot and mouth crisis in the UK, which was triggered by poor hygiene at a pig farm in Northumberland, but compounded by changes in EU regulations that had led to the closure of local abattoirs, causing infected animals to be transported hundreds of miles where they infected others. The cost to the British taxpayer was £8 billion, and had DEFRA inspection been more rigorous, the outbreak would never have occurred. In 2001, 3,025 people were killed in New York, caused when terrorists flew 2 airliners into the World Trade Center without the terrorists being stopped by the various security systems. The costs to life and property are of infinite proportions. In 2002, it was revealed that over a period of 24 years, 236 people had been killed by Dr. Harold Shipman. This was caused by loopholes in the General Medical Council's monitoring practices that allowed the willful overprescription of drugs, forging of death certificates, and altering patients' medical records to go undetected. The costs were incalculable, but it led to the biggest reform program in the history of medical regulation. The largest change was the movement from single doctor general practice to multiple doctor general practice. So, who are we trying to serve? Our quest for quality produces several scenarios. When profit is king, we tend to buy on lowest price, pay the lowest wages, do it in the cheapest way, dodge the regulations, give the customer only what is asked for, dismiss complaints from customers and the community, and refuse employee demands. When the customer is king, we tend to satisfy customers' requirements at any cost. We tend to believe the customer is always right. We sell to anyone who wants to buy. undercut the competition on price, even if we make a loss. We don't care how we do it, just get it to the customer on time. When society is king, we resolve problems through regulation. We expect ethical behavior. We treat everything with suspicion, and we drive firms out of business. Well, what do we mean by quality? It's not perfection. It's not following procedures or rules. It's not simply conformity to product specifications. It's simply the degree to which requirements are fulfilled. But whose requirements might these be? None of the disasters mentioned earlier are directly related to purchasing decisions, but further investigation will show that in the chain of events leading up to the disaster, people made decisions without balancing the needs of all stakeholders. Stakeholders are groups of people that have an interest in the performance of an organization. They include shareholders, customers, employees, suppliers, society. They can withdraw their stake at any time. It is easy to satisfy one stakeholder at the expense of the others. But in reality, it's a balancing act, balancing the needs of stakeholders. The factor that causes a balance to be fulfilled is values. Without values, we are influenced by those who shout the loudest. Firstly, our organization has needs that arise from our purpose, our reason for existing. In pursuit of its purpose, it establishes goals that reflect the results it desires to achieve. It establishes processes which are formed by the interaction of interrelated activities, behaviors, and resources that produce our results. And whether we achieve the result we desire to some extent depends upon the values or principles that will guide us in fulfilling our goals. We should always ask ourselves whether what we are about to do is the right thing to do. So what's the right thing to do? If you can buy some organic Paraguayan cane sugar at £200 a tonne, less than the current supplier, when you have seen the video with the donkey dung near the cane sugar loading area, would you buy it? If you have the chance to buy 100,000 50-kilogram bags from an Eastern European supplier with a saving of 50,000 on current prices, but when you have witnessed employees being burnt by soldering irons they are using to seal seams, would you buy the product? All stakeholders have needs and expectations. Shareholders expect performance, transparency, and confidence. Customers expect products or services that satisfy their needs economical throughout their life. Employees expect security, good pay and conditions, involvement and recognition. Suppliers expect bills paid on time and to be treated with respect. Society expects compliance with the norms of their society. Quality at what cost? If we don't do things efficiently and ethically, there's a cost to shareholders. If we don't meet product or service requirements, there's a cost to the customer. If we don't recognize human rights, there's a cost to our employees. If we don't pay our bills on time, there's a cost to suppliers. And if we don't take care of the environment, there's a cost to society as a whole. But in the end, it is our loss. This is the cost of quality. Should you have any questions, please submit them to me by email at this address.